A funny thing happened on the way to the studios. I was here a few days ago, and I put together a nice video, I thought, of the Star Wars themed land. I wanted to share with you my thoughts and show you what I saw. Funny thing was, I got home and I realized there was no audio to go with that video. I don't know what happened to the audio, but it wasn't there. So I thought I'd come back today, give you another quick view around the studios. I'll use some of the video I had in there and maybe voice over it and give you some context of what's going on. But I wanted to come back and at least share the audio with you so that you would understand what was going on. So let's get started, shall we? So we're going to pick up this video starting talking about what the Star Wars themed area was where they had Star Tours. Now, Star Tours had an AT-AT walker. Then they also created this Ewok village, and I thought that was really cool and very clever. It was more of a movie set than it was anything else because some of the props weren't completed on one side. But it is actually cool because you have that representation, that the evocative nature of an Ewok village and what it was like during the Return of the Jedi. So you had a feel for what it was like, and they did a nice job of kind of representing that. So that's over in the area near Star Tours, and it actually looks pretty cool. It's representative of the movie in some way. And at the end, you have Tatooine Traders, which is where you have the giant gift shop that existed before they started building the land of Batuu. The problem I have with it is, as you come out of here, there's an aesthetics problem. Because you come around the corner and you're faced back with the Hollywood studios. So there's the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater in front of us and a few other shops and restaurants and things. There's the last piece of New York Street. And you can see the Star Wars entryway down at the end. But to your left is the Muppet Vision 3D. So the whole thing is sort of disjointed in a way. I don't know why they didn't put them next to each other in some way, or change the entrances, or do something that made the aesthetics better. The way they set up Star Wars Land is kind of cool. In the main entrance, you have this giant gate that you go through, and you walk through this kind of cool-looking tunnel that looks like it's excavated out of the earth. It's actually very clever the way they did it. It looks like it's you're going into a mine or something like that. It looks really, really neat. So I give them a lot of credit for the way that they designed this because it feels like you're going somewhere else, which is exactly the intent. Even with the two sides to it, so you can go around either way to make your way into the Star Wars themed land. Once you're in there, the first thing you notice is the amount of sound that comes out. There's a lot of different sounds that are kind of different than what you'd expect. So there's sounds of droids and sounds of communicators and sounds of different things happening and maybe a little power surge and different things like that. Off to the left is where the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance is going to be. So as you were looking left, that's what you would see there. And then we look around and we can kind of see the mountain ranges that have been built in here as we walk around. So this is one of the communication stations they have set up. It's actually kind of a neat looking thing. It allows them to communicate back and forth around Batuu, or maybe it's a moisture evaporator or something like that. It's some sort of mechanical device, and there's a gonk droid next to it that looks kind of cool. So it's kind of a clever thing they have set up there. As we look at the entrance to the Rise of the Resistance, we see like a turret cannon and some other things there that give it kind of an interesting look. It's really kind of neat the way they've set it up. And then here's one of my favorite features. It's an X-Wing fighter that they have sitting there. That actually kind of speaks to me in a way. It's kind of cool that they have it sitting there. And across the way is another vehicle that you would use. And I think this one appeared in the Clone Wars, if I'm not mistaken, as some sort of a fighter vehicle. And here are the Coca-Cola grenade sodas. Now they cost $6, which is a little much, but it's very clever. Then we turn around and walk back toward the X-Wing fighter, and we can see it from a different angle. And here you see another communication device next to us with a number of other gonk droids. The detail on these is pretty remarkable. Next up, as we turn away from the X-Wing fighter, we see the entrance to the central marketplace. And this is where all the shops and restaurants and things are that are all collected together in one spot. You can see it's got a very interesting feel to it. It does feel like it's somewhere else, and it actually feels sort of like a gathering spot. The kind of place that you might go if you were in some small town or community, or a different planet for that matter. So they have some different gathering places, some interesting little architectural pieces that they have here. This is supposed to be some sort of a philosopher's stone in a way. market thing. Then you have a shop there where they've got different pieces from different droids and so forth. Even the way they did the roof is really cool, and the way they've got all the different things hanging from it. I think it's very clever the way they set it up. So as we go through, we can see all the different shops that they have set up through here. And of course, everything is a merchandise shop. And by the way, there's a traditional greeting in Batuu, and it's bright suns. And if someone says it to you, you're supposed to say it back. It's a greeting like hello. Why they chose that, I don't know. I guess because Batuu is supposed to be a planet that's in the sun. So here's an example of one of the shops that's here. And you can see that they have a creature that's in the cage there. And as we go across, we see this display of different types of vehicles. And so it's kind of interesting just the way they have things out there. It looks very much like you would be in some sort of marketplace. The kinds of wares that might be out there, or people's things that they left behind, or that they're working on. Now, as we head out of the marketplace, we're onto a different part of the street where we see a Jedi statue, and there's several Jedi things around. And if we go in that door, we'll see that we're in this sort of temple in a way. And inside this shop, there's a number of interesting things that are happening. There's a lot of memorabilia, different things that are here. And this is where you can build a lightsaber. There's a room off to the side that we can't see from here where you can actually go in and build your lightsaber. And of course, there's the shopkeeper behind this cage. So you can watch him. He's an audio animatronic creature who you can see going about his business until he ultimately falls asleep. I give a lot of kudos for the Imagineering in this shop. It's really pretty remarkable what they have in here. On the wall, you can see the cable crystals for the lightsabers, and you can also purchase a lightsaber if you don't go through the lightsaber training. The building your own lightsaber, if you do the whole experience, it costs $200 to do. So if we head back outside, we can continue on our tour.
Yeah, let's go.
And this is where we finally run into the Millennium Falcon. So as you can see, one of the coolest things they have here is the Millennium Falcon, and that's what I'm talking about here. Just the fact that it's on display and it really looks very authentic and very cool. That is probably the highlight for me. It's just one of those really neat things. And the way they set it up so that you have to kind of walk up to it is pretty cool. And this is where you have the Smugglers Run, the Millennium Falcon ride, off to the left here. Now, one of the things you missed me talking about was this attraction, the Smugglers Run, the one that includes the Millennium Falcon. And in that one, what I talk about is the way that that particular attraction is designed and how it's put together. Now, personally, I can't ride it. I can't do that sort of motion simulator. It's unfortunate, so it's lost on me. But the way they did it, they have like, I think it's 6 pods that go around in a circle. And each one of the pods has like 6 people in it. And so what they do is they open one pod door, you get in, and as you're getting in, it rotates to the next one. So that people are continually getting into the attraction, and they go around, and that way, during the time that you're in there, it cycles around, and when you're finished, you come out, then the next group of people gets in. So they're always loading people in and off, on and off. So it's like, 36 people that can go on there. Maybe it's actually 7 pods and 42 people, but anyway, they keep continuously moving people through. I'll show you a patent they have on that so you can kind of get a sense of how it works, but I thought that was really interesting and fascinating and worth spending a minute to talk about. Now, while I was out there, I happened to see Chewbacca and another Rebel pilot come by, and they actually went over toward the Millennium Falcon. So they were standing inside the little gated area there, and then suddenly Chewbacca decided to hide. Now, why he decided to hide is because there were a couple of First Order troopers who showed up over my shoulder who were looking for him. So he decides he's going to hide and stay away from them. It was kind of a cute and clever thing they were doing. It was sort of interactive. And except for the lens flare we get in the camera, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening here. And then ultimately the First Order troopers move on, and Rey shows up. So she chats with Chewie and the other pilot, and they hang out for a little bit. And of course, we're down here by the Falcon right now.
Yeah, under an umbrella. Yeah, enough. I mean, like, it was like saying, yeah, like under an umbrella.
Now, the one thing I can say is the Millennium Falcon itself, good representation of the ship in the movie. It's a nice prop that they put out there. It feels just like the Millennium Falcon does in the movie scenes. So it's really pretty cool to see it sitting on display like this. Now, as we continue along, we head up toward Oga's Cantina. Now, Oga's Cantina is a place where you can get a drink and something to eat. Now, my plan was to go in and actually see it. Now, because of the wait to get in and the fact that I wasn't looking to get a drink or something to eat at that point in time, I decided it wasn't worth the 30 or so minutes I'd have to wait just to get in there. So instead, I'm showing you a couple of photos I found online that give you a view inside. I kind of peeked in myself a little bit, but couldn't get a good shot. So these photos, I think, represent what it looks like. It's evocative of sort of the Mos Eisley Cantina that they have in Episode 4, though not exactly. It's sort of that Star Wars universe-y kind of thing, and the attention to detail is pretty spectacular. But next up, off to the right, is where you can get your blue milk, or your green milk if that's your thing. So I decided I had to try it. Regardless of the cost, I had to try it just because I wanted to have blue milk. It's something I've always wanted to try. So of course I ordered one. The music. So here I go. I'm off to give it a shot. Well, when in Star Wars land, do as the Star Wars people do and drink blue milk, because why not? I feel like Luke on Tatooine. It's kind of awesome, actually. It's not bad. Refreshing and a little fruity. Very nice. Always wanted to try blue milk. Now I get my chance. I mean, we tried to make blue milk at home, but you know, not the same. So as we come around the corner from where we were, we can see Kylo Ren's ship that's here, and sometimes Kylo Ren makes an appearance. There's also a little droid depot that's around here, and as we go around the corner, we're into where the Droid Factory is. The Droid Factory is where you can make your own droid. You can either make a BB-type droid or an astromech droid, so either BB-8 or R2-D2, or some other color variations like that. You pick what you'd like. In either case, they cost about $100 to make. You pick out your pieces from an assembly line. Then you go over to a station and you assemble them. And you give it a chip that gives it some personality. In this shot, I'm just talking about how you pick your particular droid pieces. The store itself is pretty cool. I have to say they did a nice job thematically with this. But my problem is the price point to just get a droid, and the fact that you can't go in and kind of play unless you're willing to spend the $100. Okay, then we'll head back outside.
Operators, stay with your droids.
I haven't done anything. I told them.
Greetings. Thank you. Your allegiance is noted.
So I took some time today to walk through Batuu and the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And I have to say that as an old school fan of Star Wars, look, I'm wearing a old school Stormtrooper shirt, I was kind of unimpressed. Look, they kind of lost sight of what the original trilogy and then the prequels were all about. And it's mainly focused on the current trilogy and a few other things that are mixed in there. And there's some storytelling that they're doing, but to be honest with you, that storytelling is lost on me. I don't really care what the story is that they're trying to tell. You know, they have all these things there that just don't interest me particularly. I was looking for a little more richness in the story that I might recognize and understand and interpret. Now, I appreciate the level of detail they put into this. It was remarkable. It's very, very detailed. There's a lot of interesting things up. You know, there's some really cool things to look at and things to do. But unfortunately, there's not a lot to do. You know, building a droid for $100 doesn't do it for me. Building a lightsaber, that was in the room where the shopkeeper was. There's a room behind there for $200, and then riding the motion-based attraction, the Smugglers Run, that I can't do. You know, all of that is lost on me. So it's kind of like I just walked through and I looked at the land and I went, yeah, it's nice, it's beautiful. But it feels kind of the same as Pandora in a way, where it just sort of loses something in the moment, where it just doesn't feel like it really does anything really compelling and interesting, where I feel like, oh my God, I love this and it was so awesome. I just didn't feel that. It's not that I didn't like it, it's just that I didn't feel like it was compelling and there was really a lot to do for me as someone who doesn't do the kinds of rides they have, and I'm not going to spend the money on all the merchandise. Everything was a merchandise shop. Everything is a merchandise shop, and after a while that gets a little old. And unfortunately, that's the way it works, and so that's kind of how I felt about it. As I was walking through again on my way out, I was kind of thinking about how much I enjoyed what they used to do for Star Wars weekends and how that felt immersive and really interesting, and there was a lot of things going on. And it was like, I don't know, what they built here times 10. It was so much better and so much more in tune with what the Star Wars universe was at the time and probably should be today. This is beautiful. I mean, it's well thought out, well themed, and it's just, you know, that part of it is great, but it just misses on some of the key points that make it kind of fun and engaging in some way. I mean, I'm not saying it's horrible, not by a long shot, but it's just, it feels like it could be so much more. So that's my look at Star Wars Land.